Since early 2021, the UK government, alongside the devolved administrations, have invested billions of pounds to enable hard-to-reach communities to access fast broadband. Across the UK, the aim is to connect 85% of households by 2025, with the remaining 15%, mainly rural and remote communities, by 2030. The Communications Consumer Panel, which feeds the voices of consumers, citizens and micro-businesses through to policymakers and the communications industry, commissioned FutureSight to explore how rural and remote communities experience communication services in 2023. We visited 6 locations on our journey, starting on the edge of the Exmoor National Park. From there we headed northeast to the Northumberland National Park. Continuing north, we flew to the Shetland Isles, and then drove and took ferries to Unst, the northernmost island of the inhabited British Isles. Back on the Scottish mainland, we headed west to the rural areas around the town of Oban. From there it was a long drive south to the green valleys of North Mid Wales, and our final stop was Lower Loch Erne and Enniskillen in County Fermanagh, Northern Ireland. In each location we visited hamlets, villages, sparse rural households and the very remote, and we talked to people at different stages in life. Students, young people starting work, families with different aged children at home, older and retired people, and micro-businesses, all of whom had different needs from and experiences of communication services. This is their story.
We want to be up to date. We want to be, we make some of the best ice cream in Scotland, and we want people to know about it. We want to be able to portray that, our professionality about it, because it is a great business. And we don't want to be let down by our connections being hopeless.
We wouldn't deny people healthcare because they chose or wanted or had to live here. Why now are we going to deny people the access to this fabulous thing?
It is seen as an entitlement. Broadband is seen as it is a requirement for life. It is absolutely essential.
But think about it. It is really quite sad that something that is, like we said before, as basic as having your toilet in your business is not automatically available.
When I was travelling down to work one day, I'd seen a few vans working. Obviously they had the fibrous on the van, and a few of my friends told me about it as well. They got it installed, said it was good, even though they lived in an area with reasonable signal. So I just thought we'd have to give it a go. And then 6 months ago we got it in and haven't really looked back. I can watch my football at home, emails are fine. I feel very glad of it. It changed my life a wee bit.
Alan came in using the government voucher scheme. They transmit Wi-Fi to the hill above us and repeat it down to the house here. And I'm running on about 50 MBS now, and it's excellent. It's a life transformation.
I was dangling my mobile phone out of the window as a modem, to get kind of 0.5 megabyte whatever download speed, something, anything to work with it. And then, of course, when Airband came along and we had that opportunity, it's kind of improved a lot for us. We're kind of doing okay on our front, but it's not the same for everyone else.
Yeah, it's all I've ever known. I don't have huge expectations. I've never lived in a big city or even like a big town. It's always been in little villages in the countryside. So this is all I've ever known, really.
We've got what we've got, and I think, if it eventually comes our way, great. But in the meantime, it's not like we can't function.
It's just something that I'm used to, because all my friends in this area as well, I just never knew that people would actually have better internet than us, because I just thought everyone's the same and it doesn't work very well.
Access to the internet has never been more important. The changes to working and family life that took place during the COVID-19 lockdowns now appear to be firmly established. These changes have affected everyone, but particularly those households with poor connectivity.
Well, homework when I was at school was you got sent home with a few sheets of paper and a jotter to write in. Nowadays, you get an email address to send your online work to, and with bad internet speeds, you're lucky to be able to do that. Speeds are just ridiculously slow. We have to, obviously, it causes the boys a lot of agitation with each other, with me. Obviously, Dad fixes everything, and Dad can't fix this one.
There's high-speed broadband at the school, so the children are used to using it through their day. They do stuff on laptops and tablets and stuff like that at school as well, so they're used to having it while they're at school, and then they come home, and as well as me getting frustrated about the speeds, an 8 and a 5-year-old are also getting frustrated. Why is this not working? Why is this not loaded? It's just spinning around in circles. So it's at such a young age to be bothered by something which obviously the rest of the UK seems to have no problem. The means is there for them to get this internet. My children don't have access to that. So it is difficult in that respect.
In one way it's easier because everyone is on the internet now, but in another way it's difficult because I do kind of frequently drop connection, or sometimes just the audio or just the visual doesn't work, and I kind of find out from the point of view of someone, if I'm being paid to do something, I just feel a bit stupid really, because people will say, oh, move your laptop, and I'll think it's not about where my laptop is. I know how to move my laptop, but you can't get all defensive, obviously, even though I feel a bit defensive. It feels really unprofessional, and it feels really, it's just something that I apologise for when I haven't actually done it.
And it's not just home life. The government's digital by default policy, combined with the difficulty in accessing physical services, especially in rural areas, has exposed the digital divide between those who have the tools to function in a digital world and those that don't.
Planning from the government i cefnogion rwy'n cael ffôns bod hi'n amhosib gael un o ffwrdd, yn enwedig efo bod gyntion, dwi'n meddwl, 3 diwrnod ydi o i gael eich ffôn sy'n dweud bod chi'n gwerthu gwartheg, a wedyn, os da chi'n gael un ar amser, wnaethon nhw rhoi fines eich pethau fel yna, time penalties. Felly, dyna'r llawer o hwyl, really.
Email is a problem at times. You struggle to get that on down. Large file transfers, big problems at all. I'm winding the business down, but I've still got government submissions to do, and everything is done online now. Medicine, I have to go on an app for the doctor's surgery, and then what happens? Boots send me a message back saying, come down to the branch because you had pills already now. Everything is run on, that's just the way of the world, and to think that you can live without it, you can't, because you're getting forced that way.
For lots of households, it's about making the most of what's available, and none more so than in and around the national parks of Exmoor and Northumberland, where there is limited or no mobile reception. Here, households and micro-businesses rely wholly on broadband, and where there is a decent connection, they make it work, albeit with some constraints.
It's a transformation. I've now gone on to do a master's degree with Derby University online, and it's immeasurably easier. It's fantastic. I can use streaming services on the television. I can actually have a smart television. I can use Wi-Fi calling, and I've just ditched the landline. There's no need for it anymore.
Depends where you are. I mean, there are areas down here, there's a farmer down here, for example, in the valley who, faces more challenging connectivity issues than I do here up on my side. And that's purely down to the connectivity to the fibre box in the village, which is down in the heart of the village. We're lucky enough to receive, albeit over copper, we've got speeds of 32 meg here, which is perfectly fine to operate our business from here. We do have other issues in the village, in that the mobile phone signal is not good. In fact, it's non-existent. Mobile is normally the way that we would expect our customers to contact us. So if they can't get hold of us, they may go to our competition, for example, if they don't get an immediate contact, which is obviously frustrating, and we don't get to know about that until we get to the top of a hill and our voicemail goes and says, you have voicemail. It's not ideal.
But reliance on a single service from a single supplier, often a local provider implementing a government voucher scheme, can be a source of concern, particularly with the copper switchover looming in 2025.
I fully understand that the whole issue is to do with cost of the infrastructure, but I believe there must be some prioritisation for those who have a single point of failure, i.e. if you haven't got a mobile signal, you need the internet. If we had strong 4G or 5G, it won't be so sensitive to this issue, but we don't. Therefore, broadband is absolutely essential because it is the single point of failure for communications.
Well, if our copper wire went, or as it is going, we are, for example, this particular house, we are 100% reliant on a company called ITS.
Limited or no mobile connection impacts people in different ways, but usually involves inconvenient, time-consuming workarounds. Buying your groceries using two-factor authentication is not so simple if you have to get in the car and find reception to retrieve the SMS code. But it's not just about the inconvenience. The impact of no reception runs deeper, forcing residents to weigh up the risks of being outdoors.
I ride horses, so I go out on my own with my mobile phone, and I've been in situations where you've come a cropper with the horse and you've got no mobile signal or anything, and that's a little bit scary. All those sort of safety things you're unable to do. You've got to sort of fight it out yourself, get up to the top of the hill and then say, I need help, come and help.
My husband's a farmer, and I think, God, if you're out there and something happens and you're not in that good signal spot, well, I won't know until a few hours later when it's cup of tea time. Oh, actually, I wonder where he is, or what's, if something's happened. So there is always that element that sort of niggles, it does niggle in the back of your mind.
Mobile connectivity can also have a big impact on people's experiences of the postal service. It's important we make the distinction between deliveries from couriers and the Royal Mail, because everyone here does. Royal Mail was almost unanimously adored. A throwback to the past, a core community service. Everyone loved their postie.
We've got a fantastic postman, and the post has been very slow recently, I think, because of the strikes. But in general, if we wanted something to get here reliably, it would be the post office that would bring it. I would choose the post office over all the others.
We have about the very last post office in the world is in Heppel, and the lady there is very good. You go into her kitchen and if she's cooking a dinner, it's really nice, and it's quaint.
Deliveries by couriers were a different story. It was a real mixed bag. In very remote areas, there was some acceptance that the long distances will have an impact.
The post is okay. I mean, you might add on an extra day or two for delivery here and there. And as I said, then if you click on next day delivery, you're not really guaranteed it's going to be the next day. But if you're buying anything bigger, then that's when you can be hit with extra charges, extra postage, or some people just refuse to send to Unst.
But where there was poor mobile signal or a poorly defined postcode, a delivery could easily turn into a treasure hunt.
The deliveries sometimes can be hairy enough. You go, like I've had to chase the Yodel man down the road. They're on the phone. I'm sorry. We couldn't find you. I'm standing at the side of the road waving at you.
So I've got home. There's no slip in the door. Nothing's happened. And then it comes up on the emails when your phone connects to your house Wi-Fi. This is where it is. We left it at this time and it was unsigned for. So then you put it on the little WhatsApp group for the village and say, does anyone know whose door this is? Because this is my parcel and this is apparently where it is. And, you usually get someone say, oh, that's mine. Oh, there it is,
Investment in the mobile infrastructure has opened up lots of opportunities to outdoor types of micro-businesses, as well as to a growing number of consumers looking for an alternative to poor and expensive broadband.
I wouldn't even say 2% of the businesses ran on a laptop. Everything, like the Facebook page, emails, it's all linked through the phone.
Previously, we ran our internet service off a landline, but we felt that the speed from the landline from an old BT exchange was very poor and unreliable. So we decided to make the move to change to a 4G router, which, to be fair, has been fine, while the speed and while EE are working fine. But then we get connectivity issues with weather, when EE goes down, and the service there in the last, say, 6 months or so has been extremely poor.
But as with broadband, reliance on a single service highlights the need for reliability, particularly for micro businesses who are now mobile only.
So it all runs off my business really on my mobile phone, and if I haven't got that, like I said, you can't run the business at all. So Interfor is an app, and Direct to Forest is an app, and then obviously Facebook, Instagram, every social media really go in.
Mae'n trafferth fawr efo cael signal ar y fan, rhwng Wi-Fi ag data ar y ffôn. Sgynnon ni ddim 5G, da ni dal ar 4G. A wedyn yn y Gwanwyn wan, wnaethon ni cael trafferth bod gynnon ni camerâu yn y siediau i lloia wyna. A da ni'n rhedeg loris hefyd, ac eithon ni mynd â gwyllt allan i ffarm. Ac troi allan bod y ffarm yma mewn signal dead spot. So eithon ni, o'n i yn am ryw hanner awr i awr, ac oedd y buwch yn lloio, ac gynnon ni ddim signal, o'n i methu gweld nhw'n unlle. So o'n i bron yn rasio ar y ffordd adre i trio cael signal i gallu gobio mewn mlaen, ond diolch byth. Oedd popeth yn iawn, ac oedd i di lloio, a doedd na ddim panic yn diwedd.
It is hard, especially like Mother's Day or something busy period. You don't have signal. It's your income, you've got to remember, and you've got to make money as well as everyone else, whether you've got signal or not. So it's rather hard.
To manage unreliability, households sometimes doubled up, covering the costs of broadband and mobile 4G, when most would probably settle for one reliable service. This meant additional costs, which were frustrating for some, but even more so when households with a poor service were paying the same amount as those who received a good service.
You kind of have to cover all bases, because if one cuts out and stops working, then you need something to back you up, and especially having 2 young children. That's why I won't go to 4G broadband, which is faster, but when that drops out then we have nothing. So I just find it easier to keep a fixed line at home for broadband.
And they said, well, it is up to 75, they said we do faster packages. But the thing that gets me is that when I signed up for it, I could have selected the higher package. So part of me thinks, would they have let me pay? They would have, because although it was higher than 75, I think it was up to 150, they would have just utilised the up to.
I would accept it if the service providers, whether it be broadband, mobile phone, council tax, whatever, were to acknowledge that we don't get the same service and charge a reduced rate. But they don't. Everything out there the same for everything as anybody else who gets all the service does.
This sense of frustration, of not being treated fairly, was a recurring theme almost everywhere. People's experiences of communication services were essentially defined by their connectivity, and for most households and micro businesses, this was far from perfect. At best, they would rely on one service and then work around the difficulties of not being connected either inside or outside the home. Some accepted this as a trade-off for living in a rural and remote location. Most, however, did not see themselves as being remote at all, and certainly did not accept the trade-off. Reliable access to the internet was considered essential wherever you lived. Perhaps what was most striking, and where the greatest frustrations lay, was in the inequality of service provision, not just between the villages and the very remote, which one might expect, but within the villages themselves. Just as an upgrade to high-speed internet access could be life-changing for micro-businesses, for households and for communities themselves, so the opposite was true. The impact of poor connectivity was so significant that for some it was difficult not to question the high-speed rollout and the reassurances that no one would be left behind.
It just doesn't really add up, because you hear a lot in the kind of press and the media about how the government are rolling out all these schemes and there's supposedly loads of funding for all this stuff, but I don't see it.
We were contacted by BT and asked if we would like to apply for the universal service obligation, which we thought was fantastic. Having a 10 meg service, that'd be great. So we did all the application, we put it through, and it came back at an unbelievable £410,000 to provide a 10 meg service to the house. you know, that is, it costs more than the house. You know, to get a 10 meg service costs more than it did to buy the house. How can that be right?
I feel like all they're doing is writing little plans with boxes beside them that they've got to tick, and then doing their plans, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with trying to help the people in the communities. And this Openreach rollout pilot, which they've been doing, is just such an example of that.
BT have installed kind of fibre or something close to it in a kind of horseshoe shape around the village. And what they've done is they've missed about 7 or 8 houses up this lane. And if you'll come past the box, kind of the fibre box, and it's only 50 metres down there. But we asked them, oh, could connect us? And I think they quoted us something absolutely ridiculous. It was in the tens of thousands of pounds.
How can somebody 5 miles away get fibre to the premise, and us, the other side of that 5 mile marker, have to pay £410,000?
And it would help to see the county council, being more robust in dealing with the national park, the service providers and so on. It's simply not acceptable that you aren't providing our residents with the services that you're providing everybody else.
They dug up my road, they put in an empty box, they put in an empty conduit, and then they went away. They didn't even tell us they were doing it. And they've done it all over here. I mean, I know lots of people who've had similar experiences with them. So I feel there's a complete and utter disconnect.
Well, I feel a bit disappointed in the system. I think that's the thing, and obviously that leads to kind of feelings of anger and hate and stress and, all just the kind of nasty emotions that you don't really need in your life.
We're not connected, and we're not likely to be connected for, they said, at least 5 years. So what are they doing it for?
They'll go for what is easiest, and that is the area around the exchange, where in effect they have got a reasonable service anyway. They've got good connectivity because they are close to the exchange. But those that are furthest away don't, but yet we're being left behind. And that doesn't seem right at all,
The UK government says at least, I think it's 30 megabytes is the standard. Why, we should be happy with 1 or 2. I mean, it's important.
I'm going off to university, and then I'm going to go into the world of work. I feel like I have missed out on some, this kind of avenue that I probably could have pursued that I wasn't able to because, the connection's just not there.
Everything is difficult when it comes to online, and online is supposed to be easier in the modern world, and it just doesn't appear to be that at the moment.